For me, this was a very different experience from the experiences I've had previously creating a piece. Partly because of the resources available, staying in the studio for a whole week and, having just that space. One thing that we did, and partly consciously and partly just because that's how the collaboration worked, is that processing relationship and making art became one thing. So I remember the first day, I think, I just switched on record, and we were talking about things, how we're feeling right now in our relationships, our space in the world, where we're at, how we interact, how powerful or how powerless do I feel in everyday life,
We were talking about the cycles of being a woman and how women contain multitudes and how we're kind of always moving through those different stages. Like even within our own bodies, they exist constantly. And that's actually one of the things that's most interesting to me about the Persephone myth is that she's always depicted as Demeter's daughter, like a maiden in someone else's story, or she's like Hades' wife, and she's always kind of subservient in the way that she's depicted in texts currently. But in truth, she was the queen of the underworld. In a lot of the myths, it's like, oh, this poor abductee, she eats 6 pomegranate seeds and now she's like banished to the underworld 6 months out of the year. And one of the themes that we were playing with was, what about that is like a choice that she sees like, oh, there's a place for me and there's work for me to do here and there's information for me to transmit between light and shadow. If I eat these 6 pomegranate seeds, I get to take my power back.
The narrative around women as victims, it became really exhausting for me. And I was like, I need to do something because, yeah, we've been victims, but can't we do something artistically? Can we do something where it's going to be cathartic for us and for the people who are watching? So I took care of the audio part. Everything that was audio, basically, I took care of it. So I did the track. And the way I did the track is I kind of used everything that was in the room and fiddled around until I liked something and then recorded it and then went back, and I did a lot of grabbing back from our conversations and just kind of used them as placeholders, and also sometimes you would hear some words that I felt were important.
I went back through 20,000 photographs from that time. And a lot you see in the images, there's a lot where, of those 20,000, many of them are like stop motion of different kind of comings and goings. So I went through and curated from those photographs all of the pictures that were, I could just kind of on an emotional and energetic level, I was like, oh, this is connected, this is connected, this is connected. And then putting together the video portion, it was, I was focusing on this kind of the cyclical nature and how there's always light in shadow and there's always shadow in light. So having this kind of balance between the two.
It's a pretty big departure for me in terms of what I usually do. Usually I do a regular concert and, people are like, yeah. I've been wanting to change the context of my music for a long time. It's not just that I'm playing some notes on the saxophone, it's also, there's a narrative and there's something visual, that goes with it, and the whole thing hopefully brings one message, Virtuosity is important to me, but also it's not just about virtuosity. Like, yeah, it's cool. Everybody's playing a lot of notes, but what does it mean, So to me, this piece kind of gave me a chance to try and do that, because, when I'm on stage and I'm like singing, I'm not a virtuosic singer, and when I'm moving around, I'm not a virtuosic dancer. I can't do crazy stuff, so I like the fact that it brings things together. It's like, yeah, when I play, I have training, but also there's other things where I have less training, and when we put them together, can I get something more sincere, I
was able to push myself creatively in terms of making work that's actually what I like, instead of like, what will someone else like? Your trust in me gave me that space to trust myself. And then I also felt immense trust for you, where it's like, okay, this is you're just holding the space, and I could feel your power.
I felt that our aesthetics would work perfectly for this song, for this piece, you know, because we're just on the same page. Like, it was like, we don't even need to think about it, you know. Just meet me on Sunday night, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.